Bit of hammock talk. I'm sure we've all seen these videos. 5 mistakes hammock hangers make, 10 mistakes new hammock hangers make and everything. And the biggest mistake, I think, is making videos like that. Welcome to bexbugoutsurvivor, and I want to bust a few myths. The thing is, they're not always mistakes. It should be emphasised really on these videos that these things are optional, and a lot of people I see and speak to in the comments will see me do something quite contrary to these set of rules somebody else has laid out for you. And that's all today is, showing you that these things are options. The first one we're going to look at is you need to sleep diagonally in the hammock from one corner to the other. When the hammock is this way, we sleep this way. Feet here, head here, or vice versa. And I don't, not in the winter. So I'm going to give you an example of this. These are 2 hammocks. This one here is 11 foot. It's long and it's wide. It's pretty light. This is a parachute nylon hammock. This is a short one, so I've got 8 foot on this. Now it's definitely true to say you're going to get a much superior diagonal lay with an 11 foot hammock. The wider and longer the better. So if you are serious about this flat lie going diagonal, you need a hammock that is long. You need a hammock that is wide to accommodate that. This here is my 8 foot hammock. You are not going to get a diagonal lay in this. It's too uncomfortable. It'll push my head over to one side. It'll pinch on my feet. But there are ways to counter not being in the diagonal, even with a small hammock. The thing that a lot of people worry about is something called hyperextension, which is just having your legs so straight that they hurt behind your knees. And a lot of people will assume in a short hammock you sleep like a banana with your feet elevated very high and your back like that. Alleviating hyperextension even in a short hammock is doable in more than one way. And this whole thing came to me when somebody commented, I don't know how you can sleep in your hammock like that. And he was trying to be a bit arsey, a bit, I've seen these other videos, 10 mistakes and everything. And then I got to thinking when he said, I don't know how you can sleep in your hammock like this. That's what it was. I don't know. In other words, he hasn't got the knowledge or know-how to be able to counter hyperextension in a small hammock. I'll show you maybe 2-3 ways to alleviate hyperextension. Just dig out some tree straps and put my small 8 foot hammock up. So don't get bogged down with these videos of people telling you what you can and can't do with your own kit. If I was to lay diagonally in an 8 foot hammock, it wouldn't work for me. This is more like a day hammock, but I have had countless nights in an 8 foot hammock. So if I can't get a diagonal lay because the hammock's too short, I've got to lay straight down the line, head and foot straight down the middle. And I'm going to show you 3 different ways we can alleviate hyperextension, which is if my knees are in a locked position, it's going to hurt underneath my knees. Let me get into this straight down the line. So there's no diagonal lay for me in this hammock. I need to alleviate hyperextension. That is the pain behind your knee. After a period of time, that will happen in a flat line hammock. You've got to lie diagonally. Otherwise, if you don't, and you sleep straight down the line, you're going to be like a banana. Like that. Feet up in the air, head up in the air. Let's see. My head is slightly elevated. Feels a bit like having a pillow under my head. Saves bringing one. What about my feet being up in the air like this? It's an 8-foot hammock. I'm 5'8". I would have to be 8 foot for that to happen. It doesn't. But there are ways to counter it. So, how do I avoid the banana or hyperextension? All comes down to how you lie in bed. Note how you wake up. Note how you go to sleep. Note how comfortable you are. I'm a side sleeper. That is how I can have such a short hammock. And I bring my knees right up to my chest like this. I can't possibly have hyperextension behind my knees from my knees being locked if my knees are bent like that. And that is how I sleep. A lot of people will see me do a talk to camera like this and say, I don't know how you can sleep like a banana. Well, I'm only doing a piece to camera. Obviously, I don't leave it running while I'm sleeping, so nobody knows how I sleep. I'm curled up. I'm on my side, regardless of how big the hammock is. So, not fond of sleeping on your side with your knees up. There's another solution to having a short hammock and alleviating hyperextension. And that is to put something behind your knees. In my case, it could be a jacket. Bring it in with me. Have a look at my knees. I can't possibly have hyperextension. That's option 2 if you have to sleep on your back in a short hammock. Pretty comfy, pretty comfy. The next option, how we can alleviate hyperextension in a short hammock, is kick a leg either side of the hammock. This way your feet drop, stretch your fabric out, put a leg there, my other foot goes there. You can see the bend behind my knee. I can sleep straight down the middle of the hammock. So, do you need to sleep diagonally in your hammock? No, you don't. There are reasons why I sleep straight down the line. 1, my hammock is just too short. I have 3 options to alleviate hyperextension. Either side sleep, kick a leg either side of your hammock, as though you were sleeping in a pod rather than an underquilt, because that is how you'd have to lie in a hammock with a mummy pod. So what is wrong with going diagonal? There's nothing wrong with it, nothing wrong at all. I have a couple of hammocks that are built for that, and I'll put one up in a minute. It does allow for a flatter sleep, but you've got to be a back sleeper to get the most out of a diagonal lay. 3 different ways to counter the banana. And the thing is, once you make a video, like, look at these mistakes hammock hangers are making, others follow suit in the same vein, and one video leads to another, until you're in the mindset that if you're not doing it, it must be wrong. The 33-degree line, is that optional? In fact, if you're sleeping straight down the middle, you don't need such a harsh angle. You can get away with a 17-degree angle, which is why I sleep in winter like this, straight down the centre of the hammock, because I use an underquilt and it wraps over both shoulders at the same time, a bit like this jacket. If I was to go diagonal, only one shoulder is getting the benefit of my underquilt. The only truest thing I've heard is that a longer hammock will give you a more superior flat lie going on the diagonal. That is true. The longer your hammock, the less hyperextension you get. I have this here, which is 11 foot. With an SRL or without, an SRL structural ridge line. And do you need one? These experts will say you're doing it wrong if you haven't got a structural ridge line. And somewhere in here is an SRL. It's a length of cord, goes from one end of the hammock all the way to the other. It has the effect of shortening your hammock to get a more superior diagonal lay. These things are optional. Some hammocks will have them built in, and you're very lucky if you have an SRL which is detachable like mine. So I've got the option whether to have a diagonal lay or a flat lay. My question: will it alleviate hyperextension on an 11-foot hammock going straight down the centre? Because on this one is only 8 foot and I'm not 8 foot, so there's no way I can be bananaed because my feet would only come to here. If my head was here and my feet were here, I'd have to be 8 foot tall. So you can see already these 5 mistake videos people make is already not even logical. But let's put up a much longer hammock at 11 foot. I'm going to go straight down the middle and see if that gives me a more superior lie going straight down the centre. So first of all, let's try going straight down the middle. Tiny bit hyperextension behind my knees, but it's not insurmountable. And I can always kick a foot either side like that. And if I was to put a mummy cocoon over this hammock rather than a top quilt and an underquilt, that is how you'd have to sleep. You can see here how the underquilt would wrap around my shoulders on both sides. I just prefer it. But these are the ways to counter problems. And they're not even problems. It shouldn't be 5 mistakes hammock hangers make, 10 mistakes hammock hangers make. They should make it clear that what they're saying is an option and you may prefer it. As I'm doing here, I'm giving you more options to see if you prefer it. Do you need a big hammock to be flat? If you go on the diagonal, certainly helps. Another thing I heard is you need an SRL, your structural ridge line. I'm going to put one on mine, and what it does is turn 11 foot, knocks that down by 20%, so it sags a lot in the middle, and having that sag gives you the extra length to go from one corner to the other that so many people are hung up on, to the point if they see anyone doing anything other than that, in their opinion it's wrong. Of course it's not wrong, it's an option. But it also dips your hammock, so you're closer to the ground and you're further away from the tarp. So the tarp is quite high up, which means you're lower down and there's more chance of the wind coming from underneath, which is another reason I like the straight line, is it brings me a lot closer to the ridge of my tarp like that, and I've got more coverage down below. So I did tell you I would tell you why I do the things, and these are why. One, the underquilt fits round both shoulders. I just kick a leg either side and my feet are pushed right up against the material of the underquilt if you get a good underquilt. I do sleep diagonal, but then again I have dedicated hammocks with a built-in structural ridge line, so I have to sleep diagonally. Got to be careful I don't take my S-beaners out at the same time, which I also keep in there. The structural ridge line, this fits over your suspension. So one side is on and just loop it over the suspension on the other end. I know for a fact this will guarantee me a diagonal lay. It's best only to use one of these if you know you sleep on your back all night and you don't toss and turn too much like I do. But this guarantees a diagonal lay, and a much superior one as well. There's nothing wrong with this diagonal lay. I'm not against it. Like I said, I have an SRL and I have other hammocks that only allow a diagonal lay because it has a built-in SRL or structural ridge line. Going straight down the centre with a structural ridge line doesn't work. It tips your body one way or the other. So I sleep head right, feet left, and this is great in the summer because it opens me up. But I hate using SRLs in the winter because I want that feeling of being cocooned. So they're the reasons that I think SRLs are optional. You've seen me do it in both. Now I have reasons to like both, and I can also criticise both. But that's the beauty. If I just want a little day hammock, I take the little 8-foot out, and often I haven't got an underquilt because I'm not out for the whole day. With this, I'd be out for the night, summer. This is my summer setup, by the way, so I would have the SRL. But I really want to knock the SRL on the head, especially for winter use. So a lot of primary reasons why you should and why you shouldn't. It should always really be made optional whether you use an SRL, whether you use a long hammock, a wide hammock, whether you go on a diagonal lay, whether you go straight down the centre of your hammock. It should always be impressed that it should be optional. These people who make videos, 10 mistakes, they're not mistakes. They just want you to do it their way because they're trying to make themselves look a bit of a smart arse, and it kind of bugs me because it puts a lot of newbies off. So if you are a newbie and you don't know which way to turn, SRL, short hammocks, long hammocks, lots to consider, here's what I would say to you. Try both. Find what works for you and stick to it regardless of what anyone else tells you is right or wrong. But another disadvantage of an SRL, I should be able to tweak it with my fingers, and that is because the lines aren't high enough up the tree, and I'm already at full height arm extension. I'd have to stand on a bucket. Great little summer hammock this. It's not cold and clammy like my parachute nylon. This is a Hexon 1.6. So I'm going to take the SRL back off. Can you get a diagonal lay without one? You can. You just go for the 33 degree on the line. You're not so hell-bent on trying to get that 33 degree if you put that on, because it's all measured for you. It helps getting that 33. It's not necessary. Without the SRL, get the 33 degree and you should be able to get a good diagonal lay. So you saved yourself some money there. So what's the 33 degree rule? You make your gun, you put it up here, and if the webbing is on that kind of angle, which mine is, you've hit your 33 degrees. I've got just as good a diagonal lay without an SRL, just measuring the angle of the webbing line off the tree. So there you go. Is a wide, long hammock necessary or compulsory? No, otherwise they wouldn't make shorter hammocks, would they? Is an SRL essential? No, but it's helpful, so you're not concentrating on that 33 degree angle. Diagonal lay, is it compulsory? Necessary? No, it's optional. There are ways to counter that. My way to counter that is I'm a side sleeper, so I can get away with a shorter hammock, which means I can fit between a shorter span of tree. And I think that's all the points I wanted to put across. I would certainly urge you to experiment and choose for yourself. You're a free thinking person. Why do you allow yourself to get dictated to? Choose. And if you have a preference, that's your preference. Does it make it wrong that other people don't have your preference? No, it doesn't. Because I don't have the same preferences as other hammock hangers have. So hope that has cleared it up. And until next time, take care of yourself, and I'll see you out there. Happy trails.